Hi, I'm Stephanie from the Sanilac County Health Department, here to introduce our topic for healthy living for January. It's budgeting and debt reduction strategies, presented by Aileen Simons from Team One Credit Union, Director of Member Advocacy and Certified Credit Union Financial Counselor. Healthy Living is a project put on by McKenzie Health Systems with help from the Sanilac County Health Department, MSU Extension, Great Start Collaborative Sanilac, and the Sanilac County Community Mental Health Services here in the county.
Hi, thank you everybody for attending today. My name is Aileen Simons. I am the Director of Member Advocacy for Team One Credit Union, and I am also a Certified Credit Union Financial Counselor. You might be asking yourself or asking me out loud, what does Director of Member Advocacy do, or what does that mean? I am responsible for initiatives that promote financial education to our members. We gauge and engage in member satisfaction. We communicate and offer meaningful solutions such as benefits of our products and services. We help our staff learn how to build on relationships and strive to educate our members and help them overcome financial struggles and help them meet financial goals. The foundation of financial stability is truly budgeting and debt reduction, two pieces that are core pillars for long-term stability. When members understand what their cash flow is and what debt management is and being intentional about those factors, everything in their financial life becomes easier. This is also a great topic because we are just getting through the holidays, and a lot of us took on additional debt over the holidays. CNBC reported that 37% of Americans incurred an average of $1,223 in excess debt this holiday season, and most of these 30% of Americans say it will likely take at least 6 months to pay that debt off. So when we talk about budgeting and debt reduction, we also can talk about looking forward and how we can help combat that added debt, and how we create a budget to look forward. When we understand how our budgeting and debt reduction connect and how they also connect with our increasing our credit score and savings accounts, it makes your money plan really powerful. So today we're going to discuss things that impact your money plan, such as your budget and debt reduction. So what is a budget? How and why should we budget? And ways we can stretch our budget. When we get to that topic, I would love some collaboration. I'm sure I'm not the only one that has ideas or have talked about ways that we can stretch our budget. We're also going to talk about debt reduction strategies, how your budget can help reduce your debt, and how both of these impact your financial well-being. I hope for this to be a really casual and really collaborative presentation. If you have questions or comments or strategies that work or didn't work, I would love for you to go ahead and raise your hands and we can collaborate on that. And if you're via Zoom, please go ahead and raise your hand and Nina will help us to answer those questions or collaborate on those ideas. So budgeting is truly a control system, right? It's about a plan for your money. It's about allocating how you spend your money before you actually spend your money. Your budget should cover these key areas, but truly not just these key areas. Your budget should cover almost all aspects of your financial life. So obviously we want to cover essentials, monthly expenses such as housing, food, and transportation. We also need to budget for debt payments such as our car payments. We know that we have cell phone bills and internet payments due. We should also be talking about emergency savings, right? We should budget for things like that because budgeting for emergency savings helps reduce taking on more debt. And also discretionary spending, if we're lucky enough to have discretionary funds, that's something that we can also allocate or at least put away for non-essential needs. When you know exactly where your money is going, you can free up extra cash to pay off debt faster, reduce debt, and avoid taking on new debt. Now, although it sounds simple, it's not that simple for all of us. So we're going to talk about a zero-based budget technique. So there's more budgeting techniques. I'm talking about the zero-based budget today because I feel it is the easiest and most effective. Now, there are other techniques, right? Another one would be the envelope model, which I'm sure we've heard about. These days, I don't know that everybody's using envelopes if you use that budgeting model. We're probably using secondary savings accounts that we label car payment or cell phone bill. But it used to be you take that cash and allocate it in an envelope until you have enough to pay that bill the following month. You label your envelope. That's how you allocate your funds. There's also a 50-30-20 method, which says that you take 50% of your income for your needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings methods. So although it's probably effective, how do we determine what about people who don't have the same income? You know, their hours are flexible, or they're waitresses and they get tips and sometimes they make more money than others. How do we use those techniques as effectively as you can use a zero-based budget technique? So this is one of the most effective and easy budgeting methods. This approach means that every dollar that comes in has an assigned jobs. It is allocated. This level of intentionality helps reduce overspending and keeps priorities front and center. Let's assume that the budget up here is for a single person, and this is his net, her or his net take-home income. In this case, we'll say that this member has the health insurance, the taxes, and the 401k contribution that is payroll deducted. If he does not, we would strongly recommend it. This is how we show that every single dollar has a job, whether it be for emergency savings, savings for everyday expenses, savings for automobile registration that comes around once a year, or for our everyday expenditures, our rent or mortgage payments, our credit card payment, water, renters and auto insurance, student loan repayments. Every piece of your income has a job here. This member is lucky enough to have $30 a month in discretionary funds. Although this month they did not get to go to their hair appointment because that's probably more than $30. They may be able to buy box dye this month so that our roots don't show, right? That's what the discretionary fund is for. But it shows how we can take this income, we can allocate it, and then we never have to guess, where did that money go? I should have more money than this, right? So I want to point out that contribute to a savings account is also budgeting for unforeseen circumstances. Often we hear, as long as my bills are paid, what do I need a savings account for? Well, the savings account helps prevent new debt when we have a flat tire or our alternator goes out, right? So this emergency savings, albeit it may be small, especially at the beginning, helps us to prevent us to get in further debt. Let's talk about ways that we can stretch our budget. Sometimes small adjustments can make meaningful financial breathing room. This is important because being broke is a vicious cycle, right? So when we're broke and something goes wrong, that new tire, that alternator, we either go into debt further, we add debt to our credit cards, or we're buy now, pay later. You know, those come with fees and high interests. So those don't help us on our budgeting journey. So strategies that are like these up here are ways that we can stretch our budget. Let's talk about changing due dates. In the monthly budget that I just shown in the last slide, we can see that on the 11th, the 15th, and the 15th, there are 3 bills due. In the 11th, all those 4 bills fall in 1 week. So maybe we want to reach out to Consumers Energy, right, our electric provider, and say, hey, can we take that 15th and can we move it either to the end of the month or maybe the beginning of the month? I have so many bills pile up right there, it's hard to even budget for that. So it probably doesn't even cost you anything. I know that at the credit union, if you're falling on hard financial times, you can say, my car payment, if I could just get that moved to the end of the month, or if you could modify it and just add that payment to the end of my loan. There's hardship loan modifications, and most of the time those types of things don't cost anything. So when you sit down and you figure out your budget, you figure out your due dates very intentionally, these are the types of things that you have the ability to ask to change. I'm also going to talk about the skip a payment, which was the next way that we can stretch our budget. It is very underutilized, in my opinion, but when you skip a payment, you can pay for probably for a small fee and you have to qualify. But let's say that I want to skip a payment. My car payment is through Team One Credit Union. And I say, you know, I've been in good standing, but this month I don't have the $258. I had to use it for my tire, my alternator, whatever my expense was. And I can pay a small fee. Let's say it's $50. And then I can take that other $208 from that car payment. That would allow me to do my heat and electric and almost my cell phone and internet bill, right? So if I'm behind because of unexpected expenses or just need to catch up in general, a skip a pay might be the way to go. It's very underutilized, but readily available to you. Lastly, we can talk about how you can open secondary savings, right? So we talked about the envelope, budget envelope method. You can very easily at least at the credit union, you can open secondary savings at no cost to you. When you get paid, you can allocate those funds. You can even nickname them. You can write a car payment. You can write grocery bill. You can write consumer's energy on those, and you can save. So whether you get paid weekly or bi-weekly, you can set aside X amount of dollars to make sure that next month when that payment is due, you have the full amount in that secondary savings. Any thoughts or questions? Anybody on Zoom have questions about ways we can stretch our budget or any? Nope. Beautiful. Let's talk about ways that we can reduce budget strain, right? We talk a lot about this in our workshops at the credit union. How can we, when people say, well, there's not enough money coming in to cover my expenses? Well, let's talk about ways that we can combat that, right? So anymore, we don't have to use Craigslist anymore. We can go on Facebook Marketplace. We can sell items, even if was a $30 item brand new and you can sell it for 10, you know that it's public, it's probably safe, you could meet in a public spot. And $10 is $10, right? When we add that to our budget and we create accurate budgets, that money is helpful. That money is secondary savings, or it helps for unexpected expenses, or on times when you couldn't work that many hours that week. You can reduce grocery costs by utilizing local food pantries. In these workshops that I'm talking about, we have a lot of staff who often say, I have 3 or 4 churches in my town that do food pantries. I know that we have a Lutheran church in my town, and that food bank, for lack of better words, is wrapped around the block, a whole mile block almost every other Saturday. And it's not, the stigma around it is, oh, it's expired canned food, but it's not. They truly are helpful. They're beneficial. They're nutrients food for your family. They're milk, eggs, bread, protein. So just as a comment on that, let go of that stigma. It truly will help you reduce your grocery costs if you utilize these benefits, these community programs, right? Explore opportunities to get a second job or increase hours at your current job. So that might not be for everybody, but it could be for somebody who got hired in part-time who would love to work full-time when given the opportunity. Or maybe your circumstances have changed. You no longer need to be home with your littles because they're in school, and now you have the opportunity to work full-time. So not for everybody, but it's absolutely something to explore should you be given the opportunity. And then consider seeking government assistance. Those programs are there for a reason, right? Those are here to help you. They're not just for people who are just falling on hard times right now. Life is hard. We have a lot going on and everything is getting more and more expensive. So people utilize these government assistance programs. All it takes is an application. There's no harm in trying to get that assistance.
I had a comment. She said, you can reduce your grocery costs by cooking from scratch, batch cooking, freezing. That way meal is ready and available instead of saying what's.
I absolutely love that comment. I will touch on that a little bit later, but I absolutely love that, and it's a great way to cut costs. Yeah. I agree.
She says track about grocery log and tracks everything by the ounce price. She shops the sales and ads and says meals are on sale. She tracks everything in the stores and puts the items when they're back on sale. She's good.
I like that. That's organization right there. And part of budgeting in this whole presentation is about being organized. I don't know that I'm that organized, but I strive to be there. Okay. When we talk about budgeting goes hand in hand with debt reduction, right? When we budget and make our payments on time and allocate our funds as best as possible, we can start putting money in places that help us reduce debt. So obviously the easiest way to reduce debt, or at least make it more manageable, is to get a loan. I often hear members or hear staff say that members say, if you can't give me a loan, you really can't help me. Well, not everybody qualifies to be lent to, right? If your debt to income is really off balance, or your credit score shows that you're, really not credit worthy at this time, your credit union or whoever you're leaning on can help you get to the point where maybe you qualify for a loan. Obviously the easiest way to go about it, but there's other ways that we can help, which start with a great budget and then lean into debt reduction strategies. So loans, we can consolidate unsecured debt, typically when you put them all together for hopefully a lower interest rate that helps you manage your payments a little bit better, that helps you be able to budget better. Maybe you can budget to pay down some additional debt. Or you could refinance. Let's say you have an auto loan, a year ago you went to a buy here, pay here place. We know that that is extremely pricey. And now you've worked on your credit score a little bit and maybe you qualify to refinance your loan to a lower interest rate. If you go from 14% interest to 7% interest on a $15,000 loan, that could save you hundreds of dollars a month. However, if we don't qualify to be lent to, or maybe that's not your cup of tea and you say, I don't need another loan on my books, we can talk about what a debt snowball plan looks like. So we can pay off the smallest balance first. So let's say we have a $300 credit card, a $1,200 installment loan, and I owe $8,000 on my car. Let's take any extra funds that we have allocated towards our $300 payment until that card is paid in full. And then we can take every dollar that we've been paying on that card and move it over to the $1,200. Let's pay off our debt smallest to largest. So this really builds motivation quickly, because on my budget, I can cross out that line item and say, that's now $0. I can see that, I can feel that. So it's great for people like me who need visible progress. However, on the flip side of things, the debt avalanche debt reduction strategy, you pay off the highest interest debt first. So in the long run, it saves you money by minimizing your interest costs. But what that does is, my car's at 14%, my installment loan is at 10%, and my credit card's at 8%, which good luck getting an 8% credit card. Just using the example. We definitely want to pay off the car first, right? So that way we're paying less in interest. It just takes you longer to get to that first win. So for me, I want a quick win, but just as effective either way. So, emergency savings. Did you have something to say?
I just thought I would mention maybe
Please.
that it's really good to be cautious of debt consolidation companies. That's something that people sometimes, I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Yeah. Yeah. So debt consolidation companies, there's often fees associated with that. They often settle you out of your debt, which doesn't help your credit score, right? You can see on a credit report when it says settled as opposed to paid in full. And there's fees in the background, higher interest payments. So I would caution against those debt consolidation companies, and maybe talk to somebody a little more trusted in your financial institution, or go to a trusted financial institution to try to consolidate debt. But that is a great point. Absolutely. Predatory even, I would say. Yep. Let's talk about budgeting, how budgeting impacts financial well-being. Obviously the emergency savings, right? When we set aside an emergency savings of $1,000 before we budget for aggressive debt repayment, this allows us to prevent new debt when surprise pop up. So that flat tire, that alternator. And as debts shrink, you can grow that fund to 3 or 6 months of expenses. So let's say 6 months of expenses is $6,000, which that would be great if that was the case. But if you had 6 months of expenses in your savings account, and let's say that your transmission then goes and you need a new transmission, 6 months of expenses will probably cover that. But 6 months worth of, or $6,000 as a loan at 12% interest will cost you probably $1,000 in interest payments over the life of the loan. So it's just really money that you could have allocated somewhere else. And it just goes to show the importance of building an emergency savings. So budgeting, build an emergency savings obviously prevents more debt. Where are we? Okay, how these affect other financial areas. Both budgeting and debt payoff directly contribute to stronger credit scores. And although we're not talking specifically about credit scores today or how to increase them, this is just talking about how budgeting and debt reduction do affect credit scores and in turn savings. They are all very much connected. Maybe that is a great point, Nina. You could have us back sometime to talk about credit scores and savings accounts. So paying bills on time, thanks to your budget, boosts your payment history, which is the largest factor of your credit score. This also, as you pay down your debt, balances fall and your utilization ratio improves. When we say credit utilization, let's say you have 3 credit cards, they all have $1,000 balance. Well, if you have $1,000 balance on all 3 credit cards, you don't have nothing available, nothing, no net, right? But if you only have $300 on all those credit cards, you're probably likely around 30% utilization, which shows you're credit worthy. You're not maybe impulsive. You don't need to make sure that those are, you're probably buying your wants and not your needs with those cards. So it also affects credit mix and length. Those are smaller factors, but still important. And once your finances stabilize, you can responsibly keep accounts open to maintain credit history. That's a great point. When we talk about helping people who are in a bad financial spot, we talk about, you know what, we know that closing a credit card hurts your credit, but having it open and you having impulsive thoughts will probably hurt it even worse, right? So for the time being, let's close those as we start making healthier financial habits and decisions, then we can keep those open. I know that on my financial journey, I have got credit cards in the mail. I have applied and got approved for them, and I cut them up. So I truthfully can't use them, but it opens up my credit utilization, my credit mix, my length of credit history, all those factors. So budgeting keeps our payments on track, debt reduction lowers our utilization, and together those create a healthier credit score. Any thoughts or questions or comments from the virtual team? Nope. So I like to think of these two things, the budgeting and debt reduction and increasing credit score and savings accounts, right, as a game. Just like we try to beat the GPS, Google Maps will tell you you're going to be there at 8:59 and you're like, I can be there at 8:56. I know I can do that, right? So when you say in 6 months, I want to have $1,000 in my savings account and really you have $1,200 or $1,400, the better you do, the better you want to do. Same with my credit score. If I say by the end of the year, I want to have a 700 credit score, and at the end of the year, I'm at 710 or a 720, talk about the excitement. Now I want to do some research. How can I continue to grow this credit score? So why does budgeting and debt reduction matter? When your budget and debt plan work together, you give clarity and control over your money. When you look back on a bank statement, have you ever been like, oh my goodness, how did I spend $66 at Applebee's on just me and my spouse? Or, you know, should have gotten the 2 for $25 is what we should have done. You experience less financial stress. And I am going to talk a little bit, I do have an article and I will read just a piece of it about how your financial well-being directly correlates with your mental and physical health. You can start saving for goals sooner, such as house, travel, retirement, and you develop those habits that support long-term health and wealth. So financial plan, very basic example of what a financial plan could look like, right? We allocate funds and identify opportunities in our budget. We build an emergency savings, which we know then prevents new debt. We implement one of our debt reduction strategies. For me, it's for sure the snowball, but to each their own. Growing an emergency fund to save for 3 to 6 months of expenses provides financial security. And then we can redirect any available funds to long-term savings. This invests in your future and helps build wealth. And also when you start making good decisions, you continue to make even better decisions. Okay. Here is a great collaborative conversation piece, right? Things that we can do to strengthen our financial wellness. First and foremost, set healthy boundaries and establish a clear repayment plan when lending money. So we all have that family member or the child, maybe that's the one child you have that never saves any money, always asking for money, never pays you back, right? And even though we're not in the healthiest financial spot, you can't help but say, yes, I have $50 for you, or yes, I can make your car payment this month. But what is the expectation, right? To pay it back, we need to make sure that it's timely. We need to give an example. This money should be paid back by this date, in full, or you need to pay $100 a month until June, whatever that looks like, right? But setting healthy boundaries, being clear is kind. When you set expectations, people understand what you mean. So I'm going to skip this article real quick because I'm going to read some verbiage out of there, but understand how fees and interest can impact your finances over time. When you have a poor credit score, a lower credit score, you pay more interest. You're probably paying a few fees. If you're struggling to make payments on time, you probably are maybe get an NSF fee here and there because you thought the funds were in there, but you spent $10 at the gas station. So understanding how those things can impact your finances over time, and talking about how we can use bonuses, tax refunds, in unexpected, not that tax refunds are unexpected, but those types of larger income pieces to pay down debt, start savings accounts. Often we get our tax refund and I'm going to get a tattoo, or I'm going to go on vacation. And although we absolutely deserve those things, and I'm not saying those are bad, when we are not in a great financial position, those things can help you get to a better financial position. So don't think of it as I deserve to do this. Think of it as I deserve a better financial situation. So I just very quickly want to review this blurb. The article is called "The Link Between Health and Financial Well-Being," and it was a study by Columbia University, the Irving Medical Center. It says studies show that people who have difficulty repaying their debts and have a high number of debts have a significantly greater risk for depression, suicidal thoughts, and behaviors. This research shows that indebtedness creates two experiences that can be fairly lethal. One is a sense of uninterrupted hopelessness, feeling like there's no way out and feeling trapped. The other is shame, which is very isolating. People walk around with secrets and not feeling worthy of support. Societies like ours tend to see economic success as a reflection of a person's qualities and economic difficulties as a sign of personal failure. For those struggling with financial hardship, creating a concrete plan of action may be helpful. So these are ongoing studies. These are from doctors at universities, right? There's obviously a correlation between the stress of having unhealthy financials and the correlation with your mental, physical health. So it's not just that article. When I talk a little bit about the resources we can use, there's all kinds of articles in the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that validate that and have similar articles. Let's talk about other things, small actions that we can take or we can do to strengthen our financial wellness. Going back to that point about food prepping, doing what's on sale, shopping just things that are on your list. Review your accounts daily. This reduces mistakes and helps you stay informed. Set up auto transfers for loans and deposits. This is similar to like payroll deductions, out of sight, out of mind. If I don't see it in my account, if I don't have access to it, not that it doesn't matter to me, but it helps you create savings accounts. It helps reduce debt. Review and cancel subscriptions. I know that I should practice what I preach, but I probably have 8 subscriptions. I don't even know which ones are come off which cards. And all I ever watch is Netflix. I also have a Peloton subscription for $44 a month, and I haven't been on that bike in a year. Set smart financial goals. So these are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. Set it for yourself. In 6 months, I want to have this credit score. In 6 months, I want to have this amount in my savings. Use the 24-hour rule for non-essential purchases. If I want that new Coach bag and that Coach bag was $175 and I see that this week it's on sale for $135, ooh, I want it. But maybe if I think on it for 24 hours, it might just say, you know, it doesn't really matter to me that much. I don't need that bag. I have a purse. Pack a lunch or food prep, not just for yourself, but maybe for your children if they don't have free hot lunches. Do you have a question or a comment, Nina? Please.
Lady says, it's the same lady, she's so awesome.
Sure. I love it. I love it.
She says, the grocery stores actually post when they have their sales, and then she goes to ladysavings.com, and you can get all the sales ads in advance. And they're published for the grocery store website, and then she says she posts all her expenditures daily on a spreadsheet, food, utilities, blah, blah, blah. So when she goes to bed at night, she knows exactly where she's at.
I love
The
it.
bed. I'm like,
I'm an Excel spreadsheet girl, so I absolutely love that she does that. Can you repeat what's the website she said she?
ladysavings.com.
Lady, L-A-D-Y, ladysavings.com. Thank you for that information. I will absolutely use that. I am a meal prepper, so I appreciate that information. I like that. And that goes back to making a list before you go shopping, right? What am I making for? So if I know what the sales are, I know what I can make for dinner this week. I know that I'll have leftovers for lunch the next day, right? All those are easy ways just to be conscious of the decisions we're making. They will help strengthen your financial wellness. I need to partner up with that lady on there.
Yeah, but I don't know how to do that, so I use a team. We're seller.
Yeah, we should have, that would be a great topic also. I absolutely love that. So there are support and resources, I mean, all over the place, right? So I was talking earlier about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau website. It's got educational videos and articles. It has resources such as budgeting tools, things like that. Financial support, it's got tips and tricks and tools that you can use, educational pieces that help you understand budgeting and credit scores, savings accounts. Use free resources, right? Most credit unions, I would say, have on their website have resources that have the same. They have, you know, a little financial education, member education. They have options. They have life journeys on there. We have budgeting tools. Not that I'm not an advocate for Credit Karma or anything, but if you don't have a financial institution that has these tools or don't have one yet even, you can utilize these things for free. Credit Karma, before our new checking accounts at Team One Credit Union, I used Credit Karma for 12 years. It's tracked me over 12 years, and that also gives you tips and tricks and resources. Upon looking at the App Store on my iPhone, there's hundreds of budgeting apps that you could download for free. Some of them really intricate and detailed, and some of them very high level that are easy to use. And then you can ask your credit union for help, right? So Team One offers a financial empowerment program. I'm sure that there's other financial institutions that offer similar programs. But what they are, it's not just advice, it's walking along with our members on their financial journey, right? We want to talk about what your financial lifestyle looks like. We want to talk about how you budget. What are your obstacles? What are your goals, short and long term? You know, and we will stay with you as those things change. Our goals aren't always the same. Our obstacles aren't always the same, right? So then we recommend products, services, or steps you can take to help meet your goals. And it's also it's for financial education. It's a great piece. You want somebody you trust to partner with you along your journey, right? So you definitely want to have the right team behind you. So if you don't already have a credit union or a credit union that you love, please come see us at Team One. We have 10 branches in Michigan. We have 3 over here in the Thumb, up in Traverse City, Saginaw, Shiawassee, and Genesee counties. Also, if you live, work, worship, or attend school in Michigan, you can go right online and submit your application. You can do it all virtually. We do virtual meetings for our financial empowerment program because we are here to partner with you along your financial journey. Do we have any questions, comments, or thoughts on today's presentation? Please.
When I first got my first washer and dryer, the question was it paying for itself instead of going to the
laundromat,
Oh.
goes back many years ago. I put a bank on my wash machine.
Yeah.
Every time I used it, I put $1 worth in, and dryer, same thing, put X amount of money in. For long it had paid, so. And also, any change I get, I don't spend it, I put it in a bank and utilize that.
Yeah,
End of a month, you've got quite a bit.
absolutely. Or if
As
there's
long as you don't spend the coins.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, for long-term goals or short-term vacations for, a new set of tires, absolutely. I love the washer and dryer. We often talk about, we do this, activity in our workshops, and it's like you have to allocate your funds, and do you want to, you have to spend 3 tokens to have a washer and dryer at home, you have to spend 2 tokens to have it in your community building, or 1 token to go out to the laundromat. Well, even so, you have to pay to go to the laundromat. So I like that could be an activity.
But if.
I believe it.
Come home from work, and then you gotta go to the laundromat, and I went out and bought them, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna prove it to myself, we'll go over it, so.
I absolutely love that.
Used wash machine, I handed them a bunch of coins, so what's this for? Whatever you're using, if you're using the wash machine, it's $1 for every use. At that time now, I think it's $4 or $5.
Yeah.
Laundromat.
I'd be paying a ton, and my husband would still have all his money.
Don't make one.
I like it. I like it. Any other comments or questions, Nina?
She also said if you scan your grocery receipts on Fetch, you can earn gift cards.
Okay, I've heard of things like that, like Upside. We do Upside for our gas. It doesn't cost you anything. It's an app. You go to, I think you have to tell it ahead of time, I'm going here. And then you can take cash back out of it. I think my husband's got like $75 out of it over the last year, which doesn't sound like a ton, but $75 is $75. Awesome. I absolutely appreciate, I'm not sure the name of the person who is being collaborative, but thank you so much, Stacy. We appreciate it. We appreciate everyone here. And just as a last note, please be intentional with every dollar. It'll just help you towards your financial goals.
So we would like to thank Aileen for coming today.
My
giving us
pleasure.
All that great information. McKenzie Health Systems would also like to invite you for next month. February 18th is the next Healthy Living series. It will be Menopause Matters, Thriving Through the Change. We hope you can attend if that interests you.
Thank you.